Joining me today is Kareem Allam. Kareem Allam is running in Vancouver with the Vancouver Liberals as a candidate for mayor. And Kareem is not a stranger to Surrey. He's done lots of work in Surrey before. But Kareem, welcome to Swift Radio.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jinny. It's a real honor to be here.
Kareem, first of all, tell people something about yourself. Because I think often when people go into politics and they're running, we think that they just come from nowhere. But all of us have families, we have a life, we have a background. So just very briefly, give us a little bit of your background and what brought you to this idea of being the mayor of Vancouver.
Well, I've spent 25 years of my career in the public policy process. I've worked on Parliament Hill. I've run about 40 political campaigns. I consider myself a policy analyst. I was a policy director at the Vancouver Board of Trade. So I'm very, very curious and very interested in policy and how we can make people's lives better. I've served as an advisor to many ministers, many mayors. And so I've always been passionate about politics. I've always been passionate about people. And I've always thought that to be a good politician, you have to have one of two things, either a curiosity about people or a curiosity about policy. And I'm very curious about both.
Oh, that's excellent. So that's the kind of the political answer. Tell us a little bit about the person, Kareem Allam.
Well, I live in Vancouver with my wife. I ran a public affairs firm. I grew up, my family came to Canada in the 1970s. My mother's family left Sudan in the late 60s after revolution. They spent 2 years as refugees in Lebanon before their papers cleared to come to Canada. My mom then went back to Egypt after she graduated from Simon Fraser University, met my father, who was a general in the Egyptian army, and they decided to raise their family here in Canada. A lot of my perspective about politics is really colored by the experience my parents had with their governments from where they came from. I'm very motivated by seeing unity and bringing people together. I've seen through their eyes and heard through their stories what can happen when division starts to entrench itself in our political system.
So do you have any kids?
None.
None, okay.
I have a dog.
You have a dog. Well, then you say that you do have a third member of your family.
There's
right?
a third member of my family.
So you said that your family moved here in the 70s, right?
That's right.
Actually, I came to Canada in 1975.
That's incredible.
But from England.
But from England.
But from England. We got hired as teachers while we were still in England, and so came in a very different way than many immigrants come to this country. So my next question is, with all your background in policy analysis, you've worked on many, many campaigns. What drives you? What is it about Vancouver that made you want to be the mayor at this time?
I've never seen our city more divided than I have at this point. We have divisions in our city between geography, between the west side and the east side. We are seeing divisions being sown by the political parties that are currently running, pitching wealthy people against poor people. I'm seeing divisions along ethnic lines. We're seeing massive increases in anti-Semitism, anti-Islamic hate. We're seeing major rises in racist acts towards the Chinese community. And I feel that in this moment, the city of Vancouver needs a unifier, a coalition builder, a person who's going to break down those barriers and get back to the things that unite people. And those things that unite people at a city level are simple. There are community centers, there are parks, there are the frontline services that we deliver. When I was growing up in Vancouver and in Richmond, it was at our community centers and at our parks that I made Jewish friends, that I made Punjabi friends, that I made Chinese friends. These frontline services are critical to building unity. And in the city of Vancouver, our entire infrastructure of parks, libraries are completely falling apart. They are being defunded. We're seeing library hours decrease. We're seeing community centers not being upgraded. And when those services aren't there for people, it's a missed opportunity to integrate and to bring people together.
So you talk about the division and also people being unhappy. Here in Surrey, we often feel Vancouver gets everything and Surrey gets nothing. I mean, just telling you how we feel in Surrey, that we're the abandoned child. But when you talk about the importance of bringing people together, how did you build your platform, or let's say build your team, so that you could show that you really are building a coalition for all who live in Vancouver?
We've built the most diverse team on every measure of diversity that you could measure. We have members of the New Democrats, we have members of the Federal Liberal Party, we have members that were former BC Liberals, we have Conservatives. Not very much in municipal politics is ideological. We can all agree, regardless of what political party you're from, that we should have a world-class library system, great swimming pools. These are not ideological issues. So that's what we've done, is we've gone out and built a broad-based coalition that's representative of the city. But the divisions, when I talk about Vancouver, also extend beyond the borders of Vancouver. Vancouver cannot succeed as a city without a strong and healthy, vibrant Surrey. The mayor of Vancouver, the last two mayors of Vancouver, have not been asserting their leadership at the Metro Vancouver and the TransLink table. I, as mayor of Vancouver, have a huge priority around transportation. Transportation is our single largest employer in the Lower Mainland. 1 in 12 jobs in the Lower Mainland are connected to the port, rail, trucking, the airport. If we can't build a SkyTrain line to UBC and connect Western Canada's largest research center with Western Canada's main employment center, we are in a lot of trouble in our ability to grow our economy. But we also have King George Highway. It is the highest density in the province of British Columbia that doesn't have a SkyTrain line. So I need a strong mayor of Surrey. We need a strong mayor of Vancouver to work together to push and advocate for each other's transportation projects for our mutual benefit.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, you brought up Metro.
Yes.
Metro Board has come under a lot of criticism. So when elected mayor, would you support a more trimmed down Metro Board with maybe a narrower mandate? Because they seem to have expanded their mandate and there seems to be a lot of conflict as a result of it.
Absolutely. I think we want to shift the Metro Vancouver governance model to something that looks more similar to TransLink's Mayor's Council. So that would at least eliminate 20 of the positions that are currently being occupied at the Metro Vancouver board table. But the other part is you're correct. Metro Vancouver's scope has gone well beyond its mandate. It is the only regional government that has the authority over air quality. I think Metro Vancouver should give that responsibility back to the province. The province is much more proficient at doing that than the city is, or that Metro Vancouver is. I think they need to get back to core services, water, sewage, seeing Metro Vancouver expand into supportive housing, and in all these other areas that were not original to its core mandate, I think have allowed for a lot of these challenges that we've seen that I'm sure you've covered on your show many times.
One of the things we hear about from Vancouver all the time is, yes, you have lots of facilities, but your facilities are actually crumbling because they haven't been maintained. And you mentioned that in your opening as well. So what kind of a plan would you have for shoring up your recreation centers and your libraries and actually roadworks?
Yes. So the first promise that I made on my campaign is on day one of the Vancouver Liberal government, we're requisitioning for the hiring of 400 frontline QP workers. QP workers are the ones that pick up our garbage, that maintain our fields, that keep our libraries and community centers open. So there's a service gap there that is currently not being met, and we're going to pay for that by getting rid of managers at City Hall who do nothing more than manage other managers. To put it into context, Vancouver and Surrey are roughly the same size. Vancouver has 9,600 civil servants. Surrey has 4,500.
And we are the same size.
And we're about the same size. And a lot of that is management, and it's not frontline services. So I want to refocus our dollars on frontline services. The second part is actually the capital part, the buildings themselves. Ken Sim, in his plan, has committed to $400 million for community centers and parks and pools in the next capital budget. My capital budget is $1.4 billion for the next 4 years. I want to see the most rapid expansion of capital projects to bring these community centers up to a standard. Kids in Vancouver don't play tournaments in Vancouver anymore. They go to Softball City in Surrey. They go to play hockey games at Burnaby 8 rinks. I want to bring those kids back. We are becoming, and Vancouver has become actually, the oldest city in North America by average age. People are not raising their families in Vancouver. Part of the reason is those frontline services. So that's my commitment. In Surrey, K to 12, there are 85,000 students, and that number is going up. In Vancouver, it's 50,000. It's going down, and I want to reverse that trend.
So my other question to you is, when you talk about all these improvements and hiring people, what about tax increases? Because the current mayor has committed to doing lots of things, but no tax increase. So what is your position on that?
Yeah, I think the right level for tax increases in Vancouver is between 3 and 4%, roughly around the rate of inflation. But it's also about prioritization. This mayor wants to build a second city hall for $800 million.
Yeah.
That's what's going to pay for my community centers, my new swimming pools, and my new parks. I do not need a second city hall.
I noticed that you put out there renaming of YVR Airport. And a lot of us, we know Vancouver Airport is known as Vancouver Airport. And for a lot of people who fly in, they say Vancouver Airport, but it's in Richmond. So what was this idea you had, and what drove you to drop that out in the air?
I've noticed that there's been a recent trend in politics to every time we name an asset, with the exception of the new Solo Awesome Bridge, that we've been naming our assets after politicians. And I want to start a new trend where we start naming our assets after great British Columbians. And for me, the greatest British Columbian is Terry Fox. One of the things that your listeners might not know is that both the mayor of Richmond and the mayor of Vancouver both get to appoint one member to the YVR board.
Yes,
I do have some governance oversight over
yes.
The YVR board by extension of that appointment. But yeah, I would love to see our airport, which will eventually be named at some point, after a great British Columbian. I don't think it should be named after a politician.
Well, I think naming is a whole new topic. We could spend a whole day on it, on how hospitals decide to name, how sports arenas decide to name. And I found out when I was in government and had a ministry where naming rights sat, that often it had a lot to do with money that was coming in. But I think you've thrown out an intriguing idea. But Kareem, during the last minute or so, what would be your message to the voters in Vancouver? What should they be looking at when they're looking at Kareem, Allam, and his team?
They should be thinking about bringing the city back together and getting focused back on the basic things that make the city of Vancouver great. We have chunks of our seawall following into the ocean. We have world-class assets like the Kitts Pool that is at end of life. We should not be incrementalist in our approach to reimagining our city. We need to start taking big swings again. We are a great city. We are a great region. And we also need to think about our position as the city of Vancouver vis-a-vis all our neighbors. Because when our neighbors are successful, we'll be successful too.
So, Kareem, I want to thank you because you came into the studio, took a long drive, but you were very wise because you were here almost an hour early. And but we do appreciate you making the effort to come out to Surrey, and we hope you will be back again. As the election gets busy, by phone will be fine because every minute of your time is going to be precious. So once again, thank you for coming to share your views.